iPod goes, Droid goes, Mac goes, Linux goes, servos go, lights go, hydraulics go, dot matrix goes, and this go, and keyboards go. But there's one sound that no one knows. What do the bots say?
This is madness.
Bite my shiny metal ass.
I'm an android.
My name is Optimus Prime.
What do the bots say?
Danger, Bill Robinson, danger.
What do the bots say?
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
We are autonomous robotic organisms from
What
the
do the
planet
bots
Cybertron.
say?
Resistance is futile. I do believe they think I am some sort of god.
What do the bots say?
I'll be back.
Big red eyes, metal toes, keyboard, mouse, security holes. If you get a virus, you'll turn blue. Backup, reformat, reinstall. So digital. No.
Welcome to the Mr. Robots Podcast, a show about technology, trends, futurism, entrepreneurship, and lots more, with your host, Steve Favis.
Hello, how's it going? This is Steve Favis with the Mr. Robots Podcast, and I am broadcasting to you from Sacramento, California. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning. And I'm just going to cover some of the news this morning as far as what's being pumped out on Google News and the mainstream news and Yahoo News and all these other aggregate news sites that are just kind of pumping out the same BS that everybody's digesting right now. The first one I'm going to cover here is I'll switch it over to my web browser here, and I'm going to pull it over here, make it a little bit bigger so you can read it. This is a story. It says, AP interview, U.S. is vulnerable to COVID without new shots. Again, this is, they're asking for more money to help fight this COVID pandemic. Probably another money grab before they get ousted from the midterm elections. Basically, they're trying to probably grab as much money as they possibly can because they are going to lose the midterms, and they know they're going to lose the midterms. And they're going to catalyze everything in the next 6 months, basically, they're going to grab as much as they can. They're going to clean house. And this is another money grab, obviously. Dr. Ashish Jha issued a dire warning Thursday that the U.S. will be increasingly vulnerable. We are increasingly vulnerable this fall and winter if Congress doesn't swiftly approve new funding for more vaccinations and more poison. They are not vaccinations. They are a type of poison. They don't prevent the virus. They don't stop the virus. And there's a high risk of getting sick just taking the vaccines themselves. This is well documented now. Everybody knows it. And I've known people who've died from the vaccination, and I've known people who've gotten very, very sick from the vaccinations, basically. And when I almost died of COVID several months ago, I got COVID from somebody who was vaccinated. Could it be that the people that are vaccinated and get COVID are even more super spreaders or sending a more disturbing variant of the spike protein and this virus out to people who are vaccinated and who are not vaccinated? Basically, it goes to everybody from these vaccines, basically. So it looks like this guy is saying his warning came as White House said there could be up to 100 million infections from the virus later this year. Viral modeling has been so accurate, hasn't it? How many people were supposed to be dead so far? How many hundreds of millions? All their forecasts have been completely dead wrong. Now they're saying over 100 million infections from the virus later this year. And as President Joe Biden somberly ordered flags to half stack to 1 million deaths, basically. So Again, another money grab before the midterms happen, basically, and things are going to change very, very rapidly. I think the Democrats, deep state's going to increase their activities enormously in the next 6 months. So be vigilant, be cautious. Supply chain issues. Make sure you have plenty of food and whatever resources you need to help take care of you and your family. Okay, I'm going to switch over to the Google News feed here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit on this so you can actually read what I'm reading. Let's see what Google is pumping out right now. Russian soldier on trial in first Ukraine war crimes case. Let's see what this guy did, and let's see who caught him and what he did. So this is the first one. Kiev, Ukraine. A 21-year-old Russian soldier went on trial Friday in Kiev for the killing of an unarmed Ukrainian civilian, marking the first war crime prosecution of a member of the Russian military from 11 weeks of bloodshed in Ukraine. I believe, just like with every war, there's war crimes going on all sides. We need to the United States needs to get out of this war. We are at high risk for going to a nuclear war, which is part of the reason why I'm broadcasting and streaming this stuff. I am fully convinced Putin is capable of doing a nuclear launch if provoked or cornered. And the United States policy towards Ukraine with their bioweapons, the bioweapons that were in development there, and plus after the COVID pandemic, I'm sure Russia had to make a course correction as far as these bioweapons labs if they were going on there, which Putin has released data on what these labs look like. I'm going to show another picture of these later on in a bit here. But for the most part, the war crimes, and again, what are some war crimes being committed? Well, the first war crime going back is the COVID. The COVID is not a natural, it's not a natural virus. Since CRISPR gene editing is spliced together with CRISPR and some other crap that should never really exist in nature. So again, there's war crimes and war criminals all over the place right now. Not just in Ukraine, not just in Russia right now, but people making these viruses that are not naturally created, artificially, synthetically made. These things do not belong on the planet, basically, and they're making them. I'm going to open a file of one of the bioweapons labs in Ukraine that was discovered that Vladimir Putin. I put this on specifically on the blockchain because I didn't want it to disappear. A lot of stuff disappears on Google when you search for it, and it gets what I call SEO buried for SEO counterintelligence to increase the amount of distracting clickbait and disorientation as far as finding important things, basically. So I'm going to open up this. I think it's this slide over here. I think this is it. Let's see here. See if I can find it. I'm going to open it up. This is the slide of the bioweapons. I want to show you how disgusting this thing looks, basically. So you have a bad file association. I'm going to switch over to with Chrome Photos. Okay, this is, I need to open up this in Photoshop. Ukraine, bear with me here. I'm doing my own self-production here. I'm running the lights and all this stuff on myself. So let's see here. I'm going to open this up in a different application. So instead of chemistry, illicit meth labs, is this going to be the trend now? Are we going to see these dark bioweapons labs that they look like they can be hack and slash together with a refrigerator and other starting garbage? Obviously, you can grow this stuff in a hack and slash dark lab. I call them dark labs. I'm sure. I don't know if that's what everybody else calls them, but they're the equivalent of a biological weapons meth lab, and the one that you see that Putin revealed here is just hidden in a regular neighborhood. I've been to standard biology research facilities that research medicine, stuff like that. They're clean labs, they're legitimate, well funded and stuff. And this lab here that Putin released is really, really creepy. I'm going to open it up now. I think it's one of these slides here, or one of these slides he released. Okay, I can't open this now. The file is not opening on the browser. Let me try a different browser real quick. Well, anyways, I'll show this slide later on. Let's just continue on with the news. So again, war criminals everywhere. This is going back ever since COVID was started. As far as I'm concerned, these are war criminals. Whoever released this, we know Fauci was involved in the gain of function research. He needs to be indicted. He needs to be questioned. His affiliation with COVID and a gain of function research, which should never be done to begin with, is very bad. And the Wuhan and the CCP virus is a total mess. I don't think this is the last strain we're going to see. We're going to see more strains here. I have some friends that are reporting that they've had these they don't have COVID, but they're getting massive headaches and massive fevers in the California area. I don't want to cause panic or anything. It could just be a really bad cold, but they're an unusual strong cold right now that's going on. So my friend had to be hospitalized. He had a massive fever over 105. He passed out and had to be sent on an ambulance to get treatment for his cold that was not coronavirus. And another friend got just as sick recently too. So hopefully there's not something else going around. Again, it's too hard to tell. At the rate they can make these viruses now with CRISPR editing, who knows how many strands of this COVID or whatever else is going to be out there. So unrestricted warfare is a thing right now. Unrestricted warfare, and that includes not only stealing technology and intellectual property, specifically weapons from America, which probably also includes bioweapons, by the way. But unrestricted warfare, the Chinese government and Chinese people, Chinese military cannot confront Westerners, specifically America, head to head. They will lose devastatingly quickly. So what they have to do is they kind of have to go around, beat around the bush, send a bunch of fentanyl to Mexico, where cartels distribute it, and poison and kill Americans. There are cops getting extremely ill just opening up cars with fentanyl dust in them. An officer in San Diego almost died, I think, a few months ago. Luckily, his buddy, his partner, had I think it's called Noxaline or something like that. It's an anti-opiate medicine that stops the respiratory freezing from or respiratory arrest from opiates. Basically, his buddy passed out just opening a car and looking at what was in the car. So luckily he saved his life. So now our law enforcement officers all around the United States have to carry around a special drug in case they encounter some of these opiates that are being completely manufactured in China. They're all coming from China, and I think some in India. But these are being imported into our borders, and people are dying, basically. A lot of people are dying. They're getting addicted to this stuff. It's the CHICOM, or Chinese Communist Party's way of doing unrestricted warfare, weaken the population, using biowarfare, everything but kinetic, basically. And also what's going on is online cyber espionage, or fifth generation warfare. A lot of acquisition of our media, influence public relations of our media. Hollywood is pretty much owned by China now. Silicon Valley is pretty much owned by China. This is part of the reason why I'm leaving California. Again, if you've been following me on my podcasts, they have spent a significant amount of money trying to steal the technologies I make. And This is part of the reason I'm relocating outside of California to go to more private location, more secure location, away from the fentanyl zombies that are growing here in Sacramento, basically. I grew up here in California. I was born in Napa, and in the last 20 years, I've never seen it this bad before. These tent towns are popping up all over California, under every freeway, every open space, every open land. There's tent towns, fentanyl zombies. Whether it's fentanyl, methamphetamine, drugs, whatever, there's a tremendous amount of homeless out here now. San Francisco is the worst, but pretty much all of Northern California, all of Southern California is covered with these tent towns and these homeless people, basically. I'm half Filipino, and my father brought me to the Philippines when I was about, maybe for the first time when I was about 7 or 8 years. I think I was about 8 years old, actually. He wanted me to meet my grandfather. My grandfather was a World War II veteran that fought against the Japanese when they invaded the Philippines. He was under command under General MacArthur, basically. So that's how my dad got here, from my grandpa's service to the United States. So when I went there when I was 8 years old, I'd never seen anything like that before. There was poverty everywhere. When you grow up in America, and especially in the 80s, 70s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and if you see early on what most of the world is like, the poverty everywhere, children begging for money, especially with tourists. They'll try to reach in your pocket, or a lot of begging. Most people don't see children begging, and it was happening. It was just the standard thing going on in the Philippines. A lot of tent towns, people were kind of squatting everywhere, and I'm starting to see America turn into that. Not in my lifetime have I ever expected America to be like this, basically. So it's starting to turn into that, and that's part of the reason why I'm relocating out of California. I see it happening here. A lot of my friends have left already. There's a mass migration going east from California. I think it's almost impossible getting a U-Haul from California to go east, but you can almost get a free U-Haul going from the Midwest or Texas to California, because there's such a trove of Californians migrating from here. So, for the most part, California is rapidly deteriorating. I don't see the politics changing here. My representative, Doris Matsui, I've emailed her about the economic espionage. Completely ignored. Every time I email her, she completely ignores me. She is kind of aloof here, not a very active representative. I think for the most part, we can't rely on our representatives to help us, at least in California anyway. It comes down to what we can do ourselves. We literally have to take care of ourselves. We can't expect change to happen in that way. The only thing we could do is elect representatives. If we can have fair elections, elect our representatives that represent us. I think the chance of having fair elections now, after the Trump campaign, is almost impossible. I sincerely believe the election fraud did happen. The amount of Trump supporters in California was phenomenal. If you've lived in California, you saw Trump trains with, hundreds of cars with American flags and Trump flags driving by all the time. Maybe for every 700 or 800 Trump supporter cars, you'd see maybe one Biden sticker or whatnot. There was a significant amount of Trump support here in California, believe it or not, despite what you think, despite what everybody thinks. But the Democrats have gotten a foothold here. Gavin Newsom, I don't know how he's still governor. He got recalled, But he's still back, and while he was getting recalled, he was still able to make law. So these things are mostly beyond my power, but I'm doing the best I can at the moment to make people aware of how dangerous and tumultuous of times we are in with this war that is going on in Ukraine. Again, I think this is the scariest time in my life. We are at risk for having a nuclear war. I sincerely believe Putin is fully capable of launching nukes. I don't think America or the West sending weapons to Ukraine is going to help the situation in any way. Again, Putin in his special, I don't support what Putin's doing as far as the war either, but for the most part, he did find evidence or claims to find evidence of bioweapons labs, which include flyers that were being handed out to children, giving them, I think, tuberculosis or something. So he also was showing drones that were distributing aerosols, basically. So I'll show the slides later on. For some reason, my iPhone photographed, or actually, I think they may be in a different folder. Now that I think about it. I put these slides that Putin released on the blockchain, the Ethereum blockchain, because I don't want them disappearing. I don't make money off them. You could just view them for free, or you could copy them with a screen grab or whatever. Or you can buy them to support me in this broadcast if you want. It's very cheap. It's like 18 cents. It's basically the cost of a photocopy for each one. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to open one of the slides. I'm going to show you how disgusting these dark bioweapon labs look like. Okay, I think I found it here. Here it is. Okay, there we go. Okay, so I think you can see it on the browser here. I'm going to switch it over. This is one of them right here. This is the biological weapon equivalent of a meth lab. But the disgusting thing about this is these are living entities in here, and they can grow and propagate, which in my humble opinion makes them significantly worse than, significantly worse than fentanyl or methamphetamine or all these other drugs, because these things can grow and procreate by themselves. These things are living entities designed to make people sick and kill them. I have no idea what they corked these things with. They look like they just cut off somebody's sock and stuck them in there. It's really, really disgusting. I don't know what's in these vials. These are the person who had to clean this lab up just must have been sweating bullets like crazy, because there's no way this guy or the people cleaning up could be ensured that this stuff has not contaminated the actual area. Looks like there's bullet holes on the top here. They assaulted this place. These are probably 7.62 bullets hitting this concrete up here. And again, if you look how discreet this facility is, it doesn't look very obvious. But again, look at how disgusting this is. This was going on in Ukraine, basically. And these were, again, U.S. funded biolabs that were started in 2005 under the Barack Obama administration. I'm going to show those slides here next, basically. This is the lab report that says they destroyed these things on the February 25th of 2022. So there's more slides. There's 7 key slides that were released, but going back to the people that were responsible for this, if this is correct, we zoom in here. It started with this regime right here, the Democratic Party. 2005, Barack Obama launched a bioweapons program. We should not be making bioweapons. The only thing we should be making is kinetic, and biodefense weapons. We should only need the knowledge and intelligence to stop what we know exists, to prevent these things from happening, but we shouldn't be creating them. And we definitely shouldn't be creating them in a low security dark lab like that one that Putin showed off of that dark lab in Ukraine, basically. So here's some of the agencies involved, supposedly. Here's some of the NGOs or non-governmental organizations. The Clinton Foundation, Soros, Open Society Foundation, Pilot Growth, Rosemont Seneca, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And again, some Russian I can't read. So there's dual research funding to these organizations, and I have actually visited one of the Pfizer Eli Lilly facilities. My brother actually works for this. I probably shouldn't have said his name, but he works for one of these companies, and I have visited what a real pharmaceutical company looks like, and it does not look anything like those dark labs. Those things are completely disgusting. I'm going to pull up another one of these slides. Again, these are on the blockchain. And in order to get rid of these slides, that this briefing on bioweapons evidence that Putin released, in order to get rid of these slides, you would have to literally destroy the entire Ethereum blockchain, basically. These are in the blockchain for as long as the Ethereum blockchain exists, which is why I support and I encourage media organizations to upload their content to the blockchain. It's not very much. It'll be there forever. And not only that, it gives you proof of credibility when you have uploaded it, who uploaded it, and how credible that story is. Other stories can link to that story, kind of in a sense that hypertext does, but you cannot go back and change somebody else's story. You can, however, update yours, but you still have to add something to the blockchain that shows there was an update. So, for example, if you mention somebody in a news story that is completely wrong and false, then that person can go back to that and correct the record. And your credibility as a reporter or whoever you are, if you're not a bot or an AI writing articles, which is what's going on now also, I sincerely believe that a lot of these not only Twitter accounts, but other social media accounts, but including QAnon, I highly suspect QAnon is an AI chatbot. If I wanted to weaponize a chatbot, I would data mine Facebook, Google, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, whatever. I would data mine all the stuff and try to see what people click, retweet, like, whatever. And I would harp on that. And I would focus on a certain audience, specifically constitutional republic supporters, conservatives, libertarians, whatever. I would focus on them, and I would try to figure out the amount of time they're engaging with them, how many times they click them, how many times they retweet them, who they are, where they're located, and what events they're going to. And then I would just keep on sending them everything they want to hear, and doing it to shape their behaviors. I was watching InfoWars at the time of the coverage for the January 6th protests. I was literally watching it go on, mostly from InfoWars. And when Ashley Babbitt got shot from that Capitol Police Guard, it was said that she was in a QAnon or whatnot. Credibility in media, I want everybody to think about this. If there's no face, if there's no human face, or there's no real person, or that person won't show their face or say who they are, the credibility of that person is non-existent. As far as I'm concerned, that is an AI chatbot, a foreign asset trying to persuade or shut up a narrative, basically. There's no face associated with QAnon. We don't know where this is coming from. The OpenAI technologies that Elon Musk created, called, I think, GPT-3, I think is fully capable of training these chatbots to do what, nefarious things, good things, maybe, but also nefarious things too. You can automatically gain an audience, tell them what they want to hear, and shape their behaviors and opinions. Insert some truth with some lies or whatever. And again, you've got an angry mob just from an AI algorithm, basically. So, but going back to this, I'm going to show another slide here. I think this one is so this is what I think Putin was requesting, was appeal for the delivery of humanitarian aid to the people of Kiev. So this is the bioweapon suit that he wants the people of Kiev to have. Decontamination, mitts, gloves, potassium iodide. If you don't know what potassium iodide is, I highly recommend you get it. Potassium iodide is a treatment for nuclear radiation exposure and inhalation or absorption inside of your body. Everybody thought that the big scare was nukes since, World War II. I mean, they're devastating. They're dirty. They're devastating. They killed a lot of people. But it wasn't a nuke that shut the entire world down. It was not a nuke. It was this garbage. This dirty, disgusting stuff. It shut the entire planet down. And it was artificially made. Everybody we know knows somebody who's died from this stuff. COVID, whatever's in these vials The real threat was not necessarily nukes. This is the worst threat to humanity. This is the biggest existential threat right now, is how fast they're going to churn these things out and how fast they're going to refine them to focus on a target population or whatever. This is the single most biggest threat to humanity, is stuff like this. And look at this. I'm looking at the shop here and what was made, some sort of refrigerators. This lab looks like it could be made for, $25,000, $30,000, $40,000 with the right cultures and stuff. It doesn't look like it would cost very much to make one of these facilities. The right skill set, yes, but it doesn't look like it costs much to make these facilities, which is even scarier. How long does it take to make a nuke? You need to refine uranium. You need to have weapons grade plutonium. How long does that take? How long does this take? Look at that. You could probably start with a drop of these things, basically. You could start with a drop of these biological weapons, and you could culture them. You could grow them, and then what are you going to do with them? You could spray them over a population. You could distribute them via money. You could literally put the contaminated biological weapons on money or paper, basically, and distribute them. So going back to this, he's requesting potassium iodide tablets. Potassium iodide is a treatment for nuclear. It won't stop you from getting exploded. It won't stop you from getting burnt really bad. But when the fallout happens, what it does is the nuclear radioactive stuff and the isotopes get stuck in your in your thyroid gland. What happens is the potassium iodide actually binds to the radioactive material in your thyroid, and you excrete it basically. So I've read a significant amount of decontamination procedures from the CDC basically. Believe it or not, if you aren't in the initial blast, if you don't get burned really bad from the blast and you get hit by fallout, it's actually pretty survivable, believe it or not. The first thing you have to do, number one, is you have to get in an area that has no radiation, which is, you need a Geiger counter to do that. I do have Geiger counters. They sell them on Amazon. I recommend everybody get a Geiger counter, a good one, not one made in China, something made domestically or in Europe. Those are credible Geiger counters. And when you know you're in an area that without radiation, then you literally have to remove your clothes. You have to shower. You have to shower very thoroughly. And then you have to check your body with some sort of, Geiger counter or another method basically. And you have to take, if you know you inhaled it, you have to take potassium iodide. A medical doctor is trained to deal with this stuff also. They have the right equipment to tell if you've inhaled radioactive material, but it's very survivable. Once you get out of your system, you can survive. When it lingers and stays in your system, that's when you're prone to getting sick and ill and cancer and stuff like that over time. So they're asking to acquire. This is a letter from Kiev City military installation. They're already preparing for or asking for anti-radiation equipment. It's like they're going into this thing under the assumption Putin's going to throw some nukes at them or fire some nukes at them. So, God forbid, I hope he doesn't. I hope we could come up with a diplomatic solution to end this war in Ukraine and Russia, because it's just going to spread. Right now, China is thoroughly studying what the United States response is and NATO's response is to how they're helping out or making things worse in Ukraine. And while we're over there in Eastern Europe, Xi Jinping is probably going to move on to China. I spent time in China. I spent over a year in China, and I was training martial arts there, and the Chinese mainlanders really believe that Taiwan is part of China. I recognize Taiwan's sovereignty from China. It's a different economic system. It's a different political system, and the Taiwan people that have formed their own government there have a right to sovereignty and independence. Their infrastructure there is critical, not just for the United States, but the world. I think they have 80% of the market share as far as production of semiconductors, which includes processor forges, SoC forges, and stuff like that. Taiwan Semiconductor, I think they finally have they got funded really quickly for obvious reasons to build one here in America, but this isn't something that can be built in like a year or two, like a hack bioweapons lab over here. This disgusting bioweapons hack lab. How many of these things are we going to see now? They've already built one. How many of these things are we going to see now? Now, who's going to clean these things up now? Are cops going to clean them up? Are they going to make it to our borders inside the United States? Probably. I would guess so. So imagine our sheriff or our city police run into one of these things. What are they going to do? Do they have the skills and training to handle this stuff? No, they don't. So again, we're going back to We're going back to a very dangerous situation here. This is the closest we've ever been to nuclear war in my entire life. I'm 44 years old. You know, I grew up with the USSR threat of a potential a nuke attack from Russia, you know, or a Cold War conflict, you know, and there have been a few very close cases where Russia did point their stuff up, and, you know, some Americans got uncomfortable that we're watching this stuff. But there really has not been, minus power plants, there's never been a nuclear accident where somebody accidentally launched a nuclear missile. Now, recently, I think India accidentally launched a missile at Pakistan. I don't know how they did that. I don't know how a missile accidentally gets launched. But the United States has had zero nuclear launch accidents for obvious reasons. This is a very, very dangerous thing. A very, very dangerous thing for anybody to have control over. There has to be a lot of checks and balances. And going back to why I'm building what I build. I don't trust outside governments to make an ethical or an AI that's gonna have a human in the loop. And what I mean by that is a human security controls over stuff like nuclear weapons. I think once you have an AI, which is what I patented, I have a 20-year monopoly on what I call artificial general intelligence. This is why the Chinese economically hit me for over $1 million. They wanted my technology. When you have something that's incredibly powerful as this, that can literally replace humans for dangerous jobs, firefighting, radioactive cleanup, security, whatever you name it. If you could train the robot to do this, these systems that I make, that I develop, that I patented are fully capable of it. The problem is it takes incredible amount of security and checks and balances to make sure a rogue AI doesn't get released. My AIs only do specifically what they're trained to do. And these are simple tasks, repetitive tasks, that humans, I believe, should not be doing or will have trouble doing for long periods of time, basically. So anything that's super repetitive, dangerous, you know, these things are made for robots. I keep on saying this on all my interviews. I don't want humans being treated like robots. Everybody keeps on saying, no, the robots are going to take the human jobs. Well, you know what? Between Uyghur prison slave labor in China and a robot that has no feelings or no soul, it's just another tool in your shop, like a screwdriver, a wrench, or whatever. I'm going to vouch for that robot. I don't want people in prison based upon creed, color, religion, or whatever. This is absolutely wrong. This is against everything American. So part of the reason why I'm designing these things is because I know somebody eventually will design an AI, a rogue AI. I call rogue AI, or an unleashed AI, in other words. And what these things can do is they will probably just kill all warm targets without any regard to what they're doing. And the only thing that can stop this type of AI is another AI. So this economic hit, going back to this economic hit, I'm going to keep on repeating this as I do this podcast. It is 2022. I patented this, I started patenting in 2015, basically. Had the Chicom state sanctioned company not interfered with my patents and developments, we would literally have at least several hundred of these machines being trained to do agricultural work, dangerous work, firefighting or whatnot. We'd have them by now. We would literally have these bipedal humanoids, which you can see on my website here, far-corp.com. You can see a picture of them here. I recommend, oh, by the way, if you can subscribe to the newsletter, put your email in here on this form right here that you see here. That's very important. I really, really want to help get in touch with my audience that's listening. Okay, so please, if you do anything on this podcast, go to far-corp.com and go to this website, put your email in here. I want to get in touch with my audience. And I just would like to build my my news list and my newsletter up, basically. So please fill out your email here, okay? But going back to the Seraphim, which is what the robotic system we call here, which you see here, anatomically similar to the human. No artificial biology, basically. I don't like integrating silicon with biology. I think those two things should stay as separate as possible, unless, for example, somebody needs a special glucose monitor, there's neurological damage, stuff like that. I think those are okay use cases in case somebody does want to add those potential, whatever implants to help them with their disability or injury, basically. So I think that's an okay use case, but I don't like the idea of taking a perfectly healthy human being and inserting a chip into the brain. I know Elon Musk is working on this. I know he's doing it right now. I don't think it's possible, number one. There's some rudimentary skills that can be done and stuff that can affect the brain. But remember, we don't really understand how the brain works. We can affect some things. We can affect some things in the brain. Just like we could pull out a few genes on a CRISPR edit and say we've made something new. It's kind of like saying, oh, I'm a mechanic because I know I could throw a nut inside of my gas tank, even though I have no idea how that car is ever being built. I don't have the engineering diagrams. I don't have any of the information on it. But oh yeah, I made my own machine because I added a screw or a nut inside the gas tank. Therefore, it's a new entity, and I could patent that. It's mine. That's a bunch of crap. And I'll buy it for 1 minute. But going back to the separation of biology and electronics, these things on a perfectly healthy human being should always be separate. Silicon, in my humble opinion, does not belong inside of humans. It's not a part of us. Biology is not copper. It's not silicon. So on my humanoid models, again, these are not something to be scared of, because number one, they only do what we train them to do. For example, washing dishes, mowing the lawns, dangerous stuff, construction on high-rise buildings, firefighting. These things are disposable, just like any other tool we use. Hammer, screwdriver, they're just extensions of us. They will not stop working one day and say, hey, you know what? I don't feel like working. Instead, I'm going to charge my batteries. They're not going to do that. They will have, from outsiders, they'll have the illusion, they have the capability of having the illusions of consciousness or feelings and emotions, but it's all synthetic. It's not real. It's just like your computer. If you take your computer and you throw in the garbage, the computer's not going to be offended. You're not going to hurt your computer's feelings, okay? All these are is computers with moving parts. That's all they are. I see a lot of artificial muscle research where they're trying to take meat and control muscles on stuff like this. I think it's disgusting. What's going to happen when that meat rots and dies? This meat is still made up of living cells. What are you going to look like? Give it a circulatory system and you're going to give it stem cells so that it can replace itself? That's not going to happen. It's disgusting. We shouldn't be having meat on synthetic stuff, especially robots and stuff like that. It's a terrible approach. But again, going back to the neural implants and sticking stuff in people's brains that don't have some sort of a disability, injury, or whatever, or people who don't opt into this stuff, or who expect it to be better than it really is. The scary part about it is if we can read a section of a brain that does a certain function like a wink or a blink or whatever, then we can also write that. So it's a two-way chip. It will be able to read and write, basically. I don't think this is ever going to be possible because, number one, we don't. There will be some things that work, some exceptions, but remember, everybody's brain is completely different. We are not a hive mind for a reason. You know, we're not like the Borg. We don't have RJ45 connections in our head for a reason. It's not like that Disney movie Avatar where they plug their hair into a tree and hear all their dead ancestors or whatever. So we're not like that. We're separate. We're separate at the skin barrier, basically. We're separate entities. We're never going to be able to build something and modify the brain until we can literally master that cellular biology, that neurochemistry, and that neurobiology that nature exists, that exists only in nature. If we can't even build a single-celled organism with 173,000 base pairs of DNA, how are we gonna build a brain? How do we know how a brain works if we can't build it? If we can't build one cell from scratch, how are we going to build a brain? It's impossible. The only possible framework that I would ever see this happening is something like the game or movie. This is completely hypothetical. The gamer movie, basically, they insert these nanites. They call them nanites. They're nanotechnology. They go inside the brain, and they are literally injected in the person. But they say they can read and write emotions or whatever, and control the person's muscles or whatnot. But the problem is you can't just do this to an adult brain. You'd have to have a feedback loop, and those nanites would have to be brought into nearly to the fetus, basically. At the stem, and they'd have to grow with the baby's brain, and the thoughts and emotions and feelings would have to be recorded off of that being's noggin for its entire life, because the word firefighter to that baby may mean something else or take a different part of another baby's brain. Firefighter, we know what it means, but that synaptic pattern that's going off when somebody says firefighter is different for everybody. We do not need implants for stuff like this. I'm very, very bearish about it. So I don't think we need these things inside of us. And I think there may be a time where you can't put a helmet on or something or whatever, and it can help you with some things or whatnot. But I don't like a permanent integration of anything electronic into the human brain, into the human mind or whatever. So it's a very, very bad combination. We don't fully understand it. I am going to take a 2-minute break. I'm going to cover a few other things here next. I would like to go over some more news. I'm going to take a 2-minute break, get a drink of water, just hang out. I'll be right back after this short commercial introduction again. And again, if you haven't taken the time yet, please go to far-corp.com. and put your email in this form here. You can see it on the website when it pops up. Put your email on the subscribe to our newsletter. Please subscribe to our newsletter. I would like to keep in touch with my audience, so please subscribe to that. I'm going to be back in 2 minutes, okay? Thank you for watching. Again, this is Steve Favis, and this is the Mr. Robots Podcast. I'll be right back. Thank you.
iPod goes, Droid goes, Mac goes, Linux goes, servos go, lights go, hydraulics go, dot matrix goes, inputs go, keyboards go. But there's one sound that no one knows. What do the bots say?
This is madness.
Take my shiny metal ass.
I'm an android.
My name is Optimus Prime.
What do the bots say?
Danger, Bill Robinson, danger.
What do the bots say?
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
We are autonomous robotic organisms from
What
the
do the
planet
bots
Cybertron.
say?
Resistance is futile. I do believe they think I am some sort of god.
What do the bots say?
I'll be back.
Thank you, and welcome back to the Mr. Robots Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Favis, and I got a comment from Navy Teabags on some of the comment threads. This is the chat. He said, look at the news articles from coast to coast. They are worded exactly the same. Hey, Navy, are you listening? You said coast to coast? Coast to coast AM? Or is that what you mean? I'm not sure if he's online anymore. Oh, I see. Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. So I know what he means. Okay. So let's do this. This is a funny experiment. No matter what news website I go to, it's what's up, Spidey. How you doing, man? Actually, this is funny. Let's do this. I agree with Spidey. No matter what news site I type in Google, they're all going to be the same headlines. So let's see here. Google News. Russian soldier on war crimes. Russia, war crimes. Kiev, war crimes. Erdogan, Turkey. They don't want to join NATO. Okay, now let's just go to a different news site. If we type in news. Well, the news site. So how about Bing News? Let's go to Bing and see what they're propagating too. Now let's go to news on Bing and see what they're saying. Probably the same headlines, I bet. Look at this. And Spidey called it. You are right, Spidey. Again, AP on Bing. First Russian soldier being put on trial for war crimes. Again, that's the narrative that's being propagated by I think there's about 5 media agencies now, or I think AOL Time Warner owns about 90% of the media or something like that. So, but again, more stuff, more war crimes, same, different website, same articles. You're right. Coast to coast. Let's see here. What other mainstream news site is? Let's go to CNN. Let's see what CNN is saying. The most honest and trustworthy news network in the world, CNN. So, Russian general brought to Ukraine the horrors he perpetrated in Syria. Spidey says, so Now my question is, what are they trying to cover up? Are you talking about the war crimes that they're trying to cover up, Spidey? After defying fears, it would capitulate quickly to Russia. Ukraine faces a long period that demands new strategy, Ukraine defense chief says. Ukraine is entering a long phase of war. Again, this thing needs to end. It's just going to escalate. Weapons or no weapons? That's a good question. What bills are they trying to pass? Now that they have these war distractions going on, basically. Yeah, Spidey, you're right. When the first war broke out with Russia and Ukraine, within the first week they passed a vaccine passport in Congress domestically in the United States. So they snuck that one in right away. So they sneak all these weird things in when everybody's not looking. It's a magician's trick, sleight of hand. HR 7081. So Spidey says HR 7081. Let's see what this is. House Resolution 7801. HR 7081. Let's see what this says. Let's see what it's called. Usually the name of the bill completely does not represent what is inside the bill. Pandemic Community Reserve and Public Health Response Act. Wow, doesn't it sound great? The communities are going to get a reserve of money as a response to the pandemic. This is in July. This was July. This is proposed July 27th. I think you found another one. So Spidey, SB 3522. Bill 3522. Okay, this bill was signed May 9. Oh, just 4 days ago. Ukraine Democracy Defense Lend-Lease Act of 2022, which provides a different authority to lend or lease defense articles to Ukraine or to Eastern European countries. So now we could lend weapons and other stuff to Ukraine for the defense of Ukraine, basically. Again, how is Russia going to respond to this? Ukraine basically now has an infinite war treasury. And what's Putin going to do? Is he just going to let them? Is he just going to let his countrymen keep on getting destroyed by the weapons we're providing? Or is he just going to escalate? When push comes to shove, nukes are going to start come flying. I'm telling you, if this war does not stop. Let's see this press secretary briefing. Secretary Jen Psaki. Oh man, Jen Psaki is a different story. Let's see what she says. This is the actual stuff. I'll put it on the screen. This one right here. Yeah, Spidey's basically said, long story short, we are driving ourselves right to the front line while everyone else is sleeping. Dead on, nailed it. Nobody's paying attention to this stuff. We are escalating a nuclear power. We are escalating a nuclear power here. We're escalating a war with a nuclear power. Not a good situation, basically. And like I said, this is pretty much the most scariest, tumultuous times I've ever lived in my entire life. And it's happening now. This war, we have to end this war, basically. We have to stop it, whatever it takes. The war's got to stop. Let's go and see what is going on RT today. Now, it is state-sanctioned, Russian state-sanctioned media, but let's see what they're saying on their website. I always check it to see what's going on over there. Russia already knows U.S. gasoline prices smash all-time high. This has little to do with Russia. This is basically the Biden administration trying to destroy gasoline. Keystone Pipeline. As soon as that thing was stopped, and during the Biden administration, gas shot up, basically. So, RT crew injured in Ukraine shelling. Looks like a media crew was injured in shelling. Over 90,000 civil servants in UK may get the axe. Looks like there's going to be a lot of. It looks like there's going to be a lot of unemployment going on in Russia. UK right now. What else is going on in Russia right now? Russia could halt gas supplies to Finland, media says. Again, this is Vladimir Putin's attempt to get off the petrodollar. He doesn't want the euro. He doesn't want the petrodollar, the U.S. dollar. He wants his gold, or I'm sorry, his energy to be paid for in rubles, which is basically he wants gold. Can you blame him? So a Finnish newspaper claims that this could happen as early as Friday. I don't really know what the weather's like in Finland right now, but it'll probably be warming up in several months, and they'll probably need gas. So it looks like Finland is going to join NATO. But again, these alliances are building up, and this is a previous pattern that we've seen before. Alliances are building up around the world. I guess Finland will join NATO and Russia will stop providing them gas. The newspaper notes previous concerns among the Finnish public that Russia could turn off the gas on May 23rd to Finland due to the next payment, which is going to be due in rubles. Again, another alliance being built, and another European nation that's going to get cut off from Russian gas. I think Poland has a 2-year reserve on their natural gas for heating and other energy uses. After 2 years, Poland won't have any energy unless this war gets resolved and Russia can continue to trade. I always say this trade is the opposite of war. It's not peace. If you have good trade, a good economy with good trade, good fair trade, ethical trade, not parasitic trade, like the relationship between China and the United States. Fair trade, equal, equal resource, equal energy. You've got this, I've got that. Let's make a deal, basically. Trade is the opposite of war. It's not peace. Trade is good for jobs. It stimulates the economy. It creates jobs. It creates products. It creates innovation. And it creates, a tax base depending on what the taxes are used for or whatever. So again, we have Russia potentially cutting off another European country, basically, for their gas. Russia produces a lot of gas, a lot of wheat, and a lot of gas. Russia has reported that the $40 billion Ukraine aid package delayed in U.S. Congress. Rand Paul holds up Senate vote on massive spending bill for Kyiv, demanding tighter oversight of how the money is spent. I thank God for Rand Paul and his father's service, basically. I'm glad he's stopping it. Will he be able to stop it? I'm skeptical. I hope he stops it. It's just going to agitate everything that's going on there, and how much of it is actually going to make it to the Ukrainian people. A U.S. plan to provide nearly $40 billion. This is RT today, or RT, Russia Today, RT. This is the Russian state-sanctioned media. I'm still going there because I'm not going to CNN, basically. A U.S. plan to provide nearly $40 billion in additional military and economic aid to Ukraine amid its conflict with Russia has hit a speed bump, with Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky blocking a quick vote to approve the funding bill and likely delaying it passage to at least the next week. 1 week. Will he be able to stop it? I don't think he can. I wish he could, though. Again, we're just agitating this situation even more. Yeah, Spidey said, also says, why? Here is another question. Why does the U.S. only have a shortage of baby formula? But if you go to Amazon and search UK, so basically what he's saying is UK does have baby formula. It was interesting because, when I found out that baby formula is low in short supply around the United States, I basically checked our local supply in Sacramento to see if Sacramento had baby supplies. For example, the website, Instacart, for example. If I go to Instacart is a food delivery service. If you don't have that, if you don't have time to shop or busy, have a lot of family, you could have groceries delivered. Well, not like groceries, but stuff at like local stores delivered to your house within, like an hour or 2 hours, basically. So it's like a Amazon Prime, but it's for local stores and stuff. It's a very good service. I like it. Prices aren't too different, but it saves you a significant amount of time, basically. So I'm going to type in and see if baby formula is available here in Sacramento in Instacart. Baby formula. So yeah, it is available here locally in Sacramento. You can see here on Instacart. I'm not sure if you can see it, but you probably can't see it. But yeah, it does say it is available here on Instacart. So we do have supplies in Sacramento. Safeway has them. Save Mart has them. Safeway is our grocery store here in Northern California. Whole Foods has they do have baby formula here, but I'm not sure where they're out of supply. So it looks like Spidey also mentioned on the link HR 7081, Ukraine Comprehensive Debt Payment Relief Act of 2022. Let me look that one up for Spidey. Are we paying Ukrainians debt, Spidey? HR 7081. Let's load this one up. Let's see what this one says. I'll zoom in here a little bit so we can see it on the screen a little better. H.R. 7081, 117th Congress, 2021-2022. The bill requires the Department of the Treasury to make efforts to secure debt relief for Ukraine. Specifically, the Treasury must order the U.S. representatives to international financial institutions to advocate for such institutions to, one, immediately suspend all debt service payments owed to by Ukraine to the respective institution, two, provide congressional financial assistance to Ukraine, and to provide economic support for refugees from Ukraine, including refugees from Africa or from African descent, and the countries receiving such refugees. The Treasury must also immediately pursue, through bilateral and multilateral frameworks, the comprehensive debt payment relief for Ukraine from other governments and commercial creditor groups. Looks like we're paying Ukraine's debt now, huh? Did this get approved? Oh, it passed the House. Wow. Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible. So Ukraine racked up debt, and now the United States people are paying for their debt. How do you feel about that? We've got underfunded law enforcement here. Los Angeles Police Department. All the problems they're having with budgeting and stuff like that. They're doing a great job. They're doing the best they can, but they have a lot to deal with now. Our law enforcement in California is having orders of magnitude hard times here, and we're paying the credit card bill of the Ukrainian state. This is terrible. This is really bad. There's so many things that we need help with here domestically, and this is not our war. We're just gonna piss off a nuclear power, and it's not our war. We don't belong there, and we should have never been building bioweapons there. Yes, Spidey, you're right. This is completely insane. So these guys right here, if Putin is right and that evidence is correct on a special military operations on bioweapons that are being developed, if those bioweapons are correct, and these were started in 2005 with Barack Obama, then we are in a war to cover up this administration's tracks. We are in a war covering up the Democratic administration's tracks from 2005. Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton. I don't even know why this guy's even involved with us. He has no business being here. This Soros guy. And of course, our puppet president doesn't even know where he's at half the time. Spidey just said, U.S. families are literally starving and losing their homes, and we are paying somebody else's bills. Makes perfect sense to me. Of course it makes sense, Spidey. United States started a bioweapons program, including COVID, with Fauci. This This gain-of-function research created by Fauci was sent to the Wuhan lab, whether accidental or intentional, probably intentional, just coincidentally during the Hong Kong uprisings. The Wuhan virus, or the CCP virus, the Kung flu, whatever you want to call it, was just released. So it shut down the entire world. So do you blame Russia with their intelligence trying to figure out how close these bioweapons are to Russia's borders? Do you blame Russia for trying to get them as far away from their country as they possibly can? Would you want this stuff growing in your backyard? Look at this. This is disgusting. I look at this and I want to puke. Look at how horrible this place is. Look at that. Look at that. I'm going to zoom in on this stuff. What is this? Look how disgusting this stuff is. I'm going to zoom in on it so you can see it even better. Look at that. It's not mead. It's not beer. It's not a brewery. It's not a microbrewery, and they're not brewing their own brew. They're brewing something else strange in there. Do you want this stuff growing in your backyard? He said these are the mouse swabs. Look over there at the war crimes. These were destroyed basically. Were these just mouse swabs or were these? Oh yeah, it's just the mouth swabs. It's a joke. Yep. So here's another slide that was released. This is other than the disgusting dark bioweapons labs. There's been a human experimentation going on for people with mental illness. The Kharkov Regional Clinic Psychiatric Hospital. Here's a patient that was here being experimented on. Who knows what they're doing to her? This is, I'm pretty sure illegal in just about every international jurisdiction under Geneva Convention, Human Experimentation, Nuremberg Code, basically. So this Linda Oporto was one of the patients they got that was obviously being experimented on, if the Russian intelligence is correct, which I suspect it is. I hope it isn't. I hope it's fifth generation warfare lies, but I don't think Putin went in there for no reason. So they've been experimenting on, they found, I think, 2 or 3 psychiatric hospitals where people were being experimented on. That's a bioweapons lab again. That's a laboratory equipment request. It's this one. This is the paper that they're putting the contaminants on, basically. So they put, I think it was tuberculosis or some other, I forgot what it was. Or I think they're putting on, oh, that's right, yes. If you read through this stuff, United States has been researching. You keep on hearing about antibiotic-resistant strains of bacteria. And apparently what they're doing, what the United States of these biolabs are doing, which is a possibility. You keep on hearing about this through your doctors. Doctors are really chintzy, or at least the California doctors are really chintzy on antibiotics because they're scared of next generation of bacteria that will be resistant to current antibiotics, just penicillin, amoxicillin, whatever, that whole family of drugs. So they're trying to contaminate stuff with these amoxicillin and penicillin, regular antibiotic resistant bacteria strains, basically. So they've been handing out leaflets with deliberate man-made contamination of biomaterial of high pathogenicity, which is contagious towards humans. 3.2% of patients, if I can read this, let me see if I can scroll it over here so you can read it. 3.2% of patients with extensively drug-resistant tuberculosis out of the number of patients with chemo-resistant tuberculosis, basically. So they're experimenting with highly dangerous stuff, basically. Okay. I think this is enough for now. I may broadcast again as more news pops up throughout the day. Again, please, if you like this broadcast, if you like this information that's coming out, please visit my website, far-corp.com. far-corp.com, and please fill out this form. Send me your contact information. I'd love to be in touch with you and keep you posted on everything that's going on. Thanks for joining me, Spidey. You're welcome to call on the show if you want some time. We'll interview you. And once again, this is Steve Favis. I am your host of the Mr. Robots podcast. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll check in with you today. Watch my Twitter at Subvertio, SUBVERTIO, and you can see my Twitter feed regarding this stuff, okay? Hope to hear from you soon. Thanks a lot, Spidey, for joining me, and I'll check in later on today. Take care, everyone.
But we know what they saying, though. You can hear the chant in every post. Don't nobody want this commie cause we not in China. Everybody hated Trump and now they out to catch a body. That's what they get for treating us like we in Squid Games.